Well, at least we're on time tonight, right? Get all our utilities started up here. It would be possible to drain this out and then replace it, but it would take a lot of work. We'll just go with one well and be laughing at the fact that we screwed it up. Okay, so let's see. We were going to set up something here. What was this going to be? That was going to be our vault. Okay, yes, I remember. We excavated a giant ton of iron. And it looks like the aquifer has started to get a little wild if we go that hard with it. It has started to get to a point where it may not spread out far enough to dry up quickly, so we're going to have to deal with him. Okay. The good news is this soil layer here is not damp, so we don't have to worry about this being an aquifer. It's only the level below this here. So we'll cull all this back. And then, of course, we'll have to build some framing in the space, some walls in the space to keep that aquifer tile from getting out to us. Wait. Did we never queued up blocks, did we? I'll bet we didn't. Did we do green glass blocks, maybe? No, we didn't even do those. Okay. Only one in the entire fortress. Our mason has been slacking. Oh, I've probably... Is that better, Gygaxinator? It's my bad. I've got the had the boom a little far from my mouth. Is it a little louder now? Probably better that way. So I just kind of want to force it to do a lot of rock blocks all at once. And we should, since we haven't yet, go ahead and set up a stockpile here in this area with a set of wheelbarrows for our stone. Should have set this for stone initially, but I didn't. In this case, we don't want metal ores, and we don't want any economic stone, and we don't want clay. This is just regular stone stockpile for regular stone furniture and other items. Now, wheelbarrows, we're going to set this up to about 4 right now to allow us about 4 people working this stockpile at once. Let's see, and the dwarves have arrived. I don't think we've connected up the other depot yet, so I think they'll have to use this one, unfortunately. Oh no, not yet. The truth is that as long as you understand a few basics about how to provide for your dwarves and deal with security, Dwarf Fortress is not particularly difficult to survive in. Now, if you want to embark in a reanimating wilderness with no supplies and no anvil, and figure out how your dwarves can manage to survive, you're going to have a much different experience, of course. But in terms of just basic getting a fortress up and running like you might in another game, Dwarf Fortress is not difficult. It's simply a lot more keyboard intensive. There's a lot of complexities to think about that you're not necessarily obliged to consider in other games. Let's see what they're wanting to give us here. None of that stuff is stuff I really want to export, except possibly musical instruments, and I'm not really too keen on having to make those at the moment. So the rest of this stuff is just meaningless. We'll deal with 100% price on something that we want to export, like trap components, rather than try to strive for a particular trade good. Now let's see if we can get a trader here. We make any trap components yet? We do have some. We can sell the dwarves their own trap components back to them. Perfect. Let's get rid of these large gems too while we're at it. Some training weapons. I don't need cluttering up my stuff. And we'll move all the mugs. We need to make some more mugs too. Let's check on our mug job here. We are not making enough mugs. The mug count is too damn low. Names are merely that. In this case, iron price refers to the price of entry for goblins who will have to deal with our trap line and will leave their iron at the door. But I'd kind of like to set up something that makes eliminating them en masse effective and efficient. I like a drowning chamber. Magma will work if you have access to it near the surface. Kind of a pain to pump stack it all the way up. You can use minecarts for it, but getting enough magma up there fast enough with minecarts sounds like the kind of thing you'd want to rig up a minecart shotgun for, and I haven't researched the builds well enough to know how to make one work yet. A self-reloading magma minecart shotgun does sound kind of fun, though. But we'll, at the very least, since we have the time, and I'm not going to worry about necromancers invading our fortress this time out, I'd really like to demonstrate the obsidian caster I promised in our last one. Probably not going to get all of this. Okay, so he thinks he can get us $4 grand. Let's see. We'll lose some of these larger oddities. I don't really need aluminum right now. I do want the gold. Don't need the electrum. Don't need the iron. I really don't need the steel. I can make it on site. It's almost heretical to even say, but I really don't. And that gets us to about 50-50. Okay, so now let's go down and see if there's anything we really have to have here. Oh, yeah, there's two things I really want. So let's get a pair of sheep for our grazing and a pair of pigs, and we'll probably have to go back and unmark some more metals, but that's okay. I want to start those up while we have access to them. Let's see, we got seeds. And let's take the cheap yarn. Some of this yarn is dyed, and therefore it's worth more money, but dyeing yarn doesn't necessarily make it more valuable for us. Okay, now if I'm getting rid of some more values so that I can get this trade agreed to, we're probably going to have to give up the gold to make that work. Some of the gold. We're not giving up all the gold. There we go. Okay. Now I can... think we have any goods left to be traded. Let's unmark him. Open up our pasture here. I don't believe... Someone earlier was asking why the sheep are in the pasture. Today, we're actually making this an official pasture. Wrong pair. I gotta redesignate him now. Don't! Strictly a temporary thing when you're pasturing your sheep in the temple, but we kind of got to do it. No, I'm not streaming on Discord, and in fact, if I'm on Discord, I'm going to kill it.
There's a new baby. Quick, get him a bottle of ale.
I don't want those interrupting while we're here. This is purely about the stream, the charity, and you guys watching. Okay, I believe we got our... How are we doing on bars? Starting to stockpile steel, which is good. Let's start putting some of that steel to use. And did we put in an order for our cloaks and hoods for our military? No, we did not. Okay. Did we order cloth bags? Yes, we did. And glass goblets. And did we put charcoal on? Yes. Okay, let them get those queued up. I'll have to take a look. If Cupo's building a Magma Minecart shotgun, that's kind of where I want to get to at some point. I think that's a little advanced for new players to expect new players to build on their first fort, but it's the kind of thing where if you can get the basic structure of a fort down, then the question is, well, where do you go from here? And the answer is always, well, What crazy thing do you want to build today? Well, it's not something I'm going to be able to figure out while we're live on stream. I'm going to have to sit down and look at the design and see how it's built and see how it's working. And to be honest, I'd probably have to have a diagram before it was done. I don't claim to be the best architect in the world, but it'd be something worth demonstrating. It's pretty much the nuclear deterrent of sieges at that point. Short of collapsing a ceiling on something, there's not much more permanent you can do to it than to fling magma at it in, globs over and over again in a short period of time. We really just need more people at the moment, I think. Well, I'm thinking this one is a little too deep of a fortress to worry about building a shotgun. We're gonna have to we're gonna have to build a whole fortress before we move the fortress down to the basement. But it might be something to look at for a future stream. Okay, how are we doing on drinks? Lots of plants. Let's make sure we're not cooking anything we could be brewing. Let's check our brewing job to make sure that we're keeping up with enough drinks. Let's see, brew drink. We're shooting for 500, so it's probably, is it plant storage items we're running out of? Yeah, food storage items. That's pots. Oh, there's no max. Doesn't matter. Don't have them all limited. Can't queue up a few additional pots. Whoops, wasn't trying to change his material, but that'll work, I guess. Just cancel it. The job scheduler will put it back on. We only really have 2 stone crafters, which is the other problem. None of these rest of these guys is any good at it, so we're going to leave them out of it. Now, of course, they'll upgrade to steel as we go, but for right now, getting the uniform set up with partial matches would be a plus. That's part of the reason why we're doing iron armor. While the iron isn't nearly as protective as the steel, it's good, but not great. The dwarves will equip it while we're waiting on the additional steel to be made. Over time, as steel armor is created and perfect matches with the uniform become possible, dwarves will equip the steel armor and steel weapons. The tricks I use to train my military are fairly widely known. There's nothing particularly special I do that, trains my military better than anybody else, for example. But a few things that you have to be aware of in the current version. So let's look at a schedule here for a moment. Oh, we didn't create the squad yet, did we? No, we didn't. Okay, so back to positions. Let's create a squad. This will be a stabber squad, and we'll call them... This time out, we'll do standard squads first, and then if I have a peasant militia, they'll go at the end of the list, so we're not clogging up the middle of the squad list with all the peasant folks. And before you ask, no, I don't ever expect to actually fill 20 squads, but 200 dwarves and or outsiders in your militia, potentially at maximum if you've got 200 people in your fortress, means that a 20 squad fortress is probably about as many as you're realistically going to have in most circumstances, unless you're trying for some extreme build. Now, we've already appointed a bunch of military guys for their career, if you will, but we haven't actually put them in the military, so let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, and all of our guys should now be in this one squad. Now we can go over to schedule. And the one thing that I primarily like to do with melee squads is encourage them to pair up. With the way Dwarf Fortress handles group demonstrations and group training, if even a single dwarf is absent from the training, the other dwarves will basically hold up and wait for him when they could be training on their own. Now, this is because the standard train order is one order of 10 people. You can bypass this a bit by setting up 5 orders of 2 people. Now, this encourages a few things. First off, it encourages them to pair off and spar with one another, which raises their skill level faster. And it also encourages them not to wait. As soon as 2 dwarves are available, off to the training they go. Now, you don't want to have them, like you would have in prior versions, train year-round like we have seen up here. So we're going to fix that in a minute. But first things first, let's edit this order so that there are only 2 in it. And then we'll store that. And then we will give another order. Again, we'll switch to training, and we'll set it for 2 more soldiers. And now there are 2 orders of training, see? And what we'll do is we'll set up 5 of these, and we'll use that as the basic training template for all our melee squads. Five groups of 2, copy it, paste it all the way around. Come back over here and set every 3rd month to no order at all. Copy that and paste it into every 3rd order. This gives them 2 months on, 1 month off, year-round. They train 8 months out of the year, and they're on civilian duty 4 months out of the year. And they'll cycle automatically. Now later, once I get a hammer squad and an axe squad and a spear squad, I can set them up so that they're on a rotation, so that there's always 2 squads on and 1 squad off on any given month. And that way I know that I always have 2 squads strong, ready to go in uniform when a siege arrives. The 3rd squad might be struggling for their equipment, but I know that I have 2 squads ready to go, or 4 squads ready to go. So for now, let's go ahead and we'll set this next one up to have the same thing, only we'll copy the no scheduled order into every one above the previous one, so that it looks like it rotates up as you go, and that's exactly what we're doing. And then we'll go over one more, and we'll do the same thing here. And it's just a stair step in training schedule with the net effect that of these 3 squads, 2 of them are always on duty and 1 is always off. That'll give them time to work on a craft, which you need to make sure that they do periodically, or they'll be unfulfilled by their inability to do so. It'll give them time to train in the military and get good enough at it that they're not slaughtered in their first battle, we hope. Now, this doesn't work as well for archers. If you set them to train, they have a tendency not to. But if you get rid of their other labors, give them a place to train in, like an archery range to train in, and you set it so the archery range will train individual people, 10 individual orders, you can set up your archery ranges to be used as training as well. But you have to remember what training you're doing. You can't set them up the same way as you do your melee squads. Oh, we've got a mare. Let's go down to our office level. Screw it. For the mayor, we'll just go all the way to 5x5 and call it a day. Makes it easier to get some of the value out of just the engraving without having to jam-pack the whole thing full of furniture. So we'll just go a little larger. We're not wanting for room down here, after all. So far, so good. We've got everything pretty well up and running now. It's time to start building traps, setting up a militia.
There's a new baby. Quick, get him a bottle of ale.
We don't have to be set to cut wood, do we? No, no, we do not. I need more migrants. Don't have enough hands. We have an insufficient number of dwarves to attend to the labor required. If this were StarCraft, we'd be getting the inevitable by now. We'd be told to construct additional pylons. "48 rope reeds. We're not processing rope reeds and pigtails down. Why are we not processing rope reeds and pigtails? Did we not queue that job in the manager? Probably not. That would be too easy, wouldn't it? It does not appear that we queued it. Shame on us. Well, we can't specify that as products, so we'll just let that one go. And that will start getting us some thread that we've been sitting on all this time in the form of plants. Gotta put these guys on stone crafting just to get some rock pots built in a reasonable time frame here. Tired of all this. We can't make more booze because we have nothing to put it in. Warning.
More migrants.
There we go. And still not a wax worker in sight. Five guarantees I've got at least one of them doing stone crafting and not just masonry, unless I've got a major build going, so that works. Well, let me think here for a second. See, and I didn't used to mess with all this aptitude testing for dwarves, but nowadays it helps. Give them the things they like to do, they're happier. Bedrooms mug. Oops, did we ignore a guild hall petition? Wowza. Didn't realize we had a guild hall petition at some point. Kind of curious where we missed that. Must have been a long time ago. Oh, wow. 6th of Slate 151 this year. Well, shucks. let them have it. We don't get the benefit from having met their petition, but better that than not at all. And it needs a little more money, it says. So the easiest way to increase the value of the thing is simply to tell everybody to come along and make all the stone all nice and smooth. And so that is what we shall do. And with a room that size, smoothing the stone ought to get us high enough value to call it a guild hall. Didn't realize we'd missed one. So everybody's pissed about the rain still, as though I controlled the weather. Let's see, insufficient chairs. Okay, so bedrooms, mugs, and remember to put the guild hall up next time. Kind of bummed about that. Usually I'm a little more on top of catching the guild halls. I must have missed the notification in the middle of something else. That's a shame. Needless to say, they get kind of pissy if you ignore their request to build a guild hall. And as we get this smoothed out, then we will get closer to the value that they require. Oh, that's right. It's way down to like 25, isn't it? Way down below the bedrooms.
You need to build me something. It's for the good of the fortress.
3 bucklers, okay. JMQ buckler wood 3, queue it to the top of the list. As soon as the manager approves it, they'll immediately crank out 3 wooden bucklers as long as we have the wood in-house to do it. The end, mandate met. Don't have to worry about it anymore. Hoping to get a few more people in the tavern here than we have. More socialization is required. A few extra rock mugs in order to get our dwarves drinking out of mugs instead of from the barrel like animals. Still waiting on the beds to get done from our carpenter, unfortunately, so there's not much I can do to rush the bedrooms along at the moment. Just checking. Truth is, of course, I shouldn't need to worry. I'm nowhere near a cat explosion, but it's one of those things you always look for. Start watching for it. We'll get the miners started on the next level of bedrooms because now we're well up over 40 people. We now need to have 2 floors done, and we're not anywhere near 2 floors. And now we have that entire floor designated properly. Now it's just a matter for the dwarves to come along and claim it, and a bunch of folks who didn't have bedrooms before now do. Now our miners will clear this out in short order, and as soon as they've cleared this floor out, I'll immediately set them on the next one because we're already pushing the threshold for needing this entire floor of bedrooms done. And they're almost done here. And as before, we'll set the bed mode, we'll set the planting mode on, and we'll just run around and plant all the beds and let the dwarves come back and fill in whatever beds they have available. Now, obviously, if you had something very specific in mind for your particular bedrooms, oops, wrong spot for that, I'll have to get rid of that in a minute. If you have a particular layout in mind for your bedrooms. You know, who gets which quality bed. If you're going to be a really hyper micromanaging overseer, if you will, then at that point it's kind of on you to dictate the quality levels for each bedroom assignment so that you can make sure the appropriate dwarves are treated appropriately. Personally, that's going a lot further than I would care to. I'm here to enjoy the fortress, not be enslaved by it, as it were. So, we're not going to go quite that deep. Just going to set up 48 bedrooms of floor on this simple windmill design. Oops, I did another one there too, didn't I? Well, the dwarves finished that little section there. Okay, now. That one up there has got to go, and this one down here has got to go. And for the windmill design, the easiest way to spot these is to think of them in rows. There's a row here, 2, 3, 3, 2, and then another row here, 3, 4, 4, 3, and reversed on the opposite side, right? So you can kind of look at each row and see what each row might be missing. They're not exactly lined up, but they're close enough to take them in at a glance. Alright, so we slap in our boxes next. And as always, I'm trying to do these in green glass. That allows us to keep separate from all the rock and leather bags that we might otherwise come by. Use those for other purposes. So now as I look at this, I can see these two have one. There's 2 beds here, 3 beds here, and they all have one. 3 beds here, and they all have 1, 2, and they each have 1, except this guy who's missing 1. So I can just jet over here and put 1 down. I go over to the next row, I check again, same thing. We're just looking straight across, row at a time. There we go. Go up to the next one, and now we just do this row the same way. And I'm not too worried about these being, perfectly symmetrical. If you are, there's actually a designation plan out there that might theoretically work with QuickFort in the current version. I have not experimented, don't know. Where it will actually designate your coffers and cabinets so that they're all perfectly in the right alignment for those of you who might be discomfited by my haphazard placement of these items. Trying to make sure I've got them all over here now. Yeah, looks good. 3 there, 3 there, and 2 here. Good. Now we do the same thing for cabinets. Again, we turn on planning mode. Again, we set the material filter. Again, we allow the glass items. It's not likely I'll make any crystal glass or green glass, but if we do, it's intentional for me to use it for this purpose. So the only other case would be if an artifact cropped up that happened to be made of one of those materials, which would be really wild, but, we might allow somebody to have that bedroom. No, I'm just kidding. It's going in the dining room. Artifacts are public display. The artist no longer owns their own work. The state will confiscate it for the benefit of all dwarven kind. Your work must be stared at by school children in the middle of their breakfast every morning for the next several centuries so that we may appreciate your genius. It sounds bad at first, but I bet there's enough artists out there who would love to have their work permanently displayed on behalf of the dwarven government. made part of the curriculum. Here is a logo of a snail and a dwarf. The dwarf is being tortured by the snail. This was made at the year 350. It is a sculpture in horsebow. You imagine one of those Dwarven Museum voice guides, right? This is an example of latter-day Mer people bone carving. Before the practice was outlawed. I think that's all the cabinets. Let me look here again and make sure I didn't miss one. I don't see any that are missing. And now it's just a matter of how long it takes them to bring me the furniture. The greed of dwarves for bucklers is well known, apparently.
A dwarf has been taken by a fey mood.
Let's see what we're going to get.
Workshop in the name of invention.
Clothing. Clothing. An artifact bag, we hope. Uh-oh, he's not making his thing. Tell, because it didn't give us that little notice. He needs metal bars, which we have. Rough gems, which we should have. Yarn cloth, which we might have. Tanned hides, which we probably don't have. Okay, so let's look. Tanned hides we're out of. Metal bars we're probably good on. Bars, plenty. Now, they might not necessarily be steel bars, but there'll be plenty. Okay, good. Well, that means we're going to butcher something. So who's getting the knife? Let's take a look. Not sure puppies will give us a skin, so dogs it is. We have an untaken cat? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Do we have at least one other female cat? Is this the only female cat? Well, then we don't need this adult male. Because we have a male pet, and male pets cannot be butchered. So we'll butcher this bad boy right here. Tan him up and skin ahoy!
Winter is at hand.
momentarily because I think that we are about to run into an issue where they are. Let's go down here and take a look. Did we set up a wood stockpile? No, we did not. Yes, we did, but probably not sufficient. Okay, so. This guy's making cloth. If we're not careful, he'll use up all our thread behind our back. Just checking to make sure there's not something else I can do. I mean, the snowstorm, the only thing I can do is tell him to stay indoors, but we need stuff off the surface at the moment, unfortunately. Let's see. Bedrooms we're fixing. Unfulfilled we'll fix here in a minute, but it's going to take us a moment. And he'll tan our cat skin for us. Our guy will come along and immediately collect it. And if that's the last thing he needs, which it does not appear to be, so he may need another one. We'll have to double check and see what else he may need. Let's see, way down here in the clothing workshop. Oh, he hasn't got back yet, so maybe he's still picking stuff up. Hide is just where he stops. There he goes. Okay. Now he's off and running. We can ignore him again.
You dogs may have spotted me, but you will not catch me.
And the dogs spot him at the door. Getting in around all those dogs is going to be fun, fun, fun. Now, let's give everybody wood hauling for a moment. Because we've got a lot of wood on the surface, which is great, but it means our carpenter is running way out in forever ever land to get it. And we've got big stockpiles of it. We just don't have enough dwarves doing hauling to move it underground at the moment. So let's tell everybody on their off time we're going to temporarily put in some overtime pushing carts of wood down into the earth here so we can hide it from the elves. Wouldn't want them to know how badly we're deforesting the area in order to try and keep the trees from overwhelming our fort, would you? I mean, look at the regrowth here. This tree is full grown again right next to the fort walls already. Our fortress is once again being slowly swallowed by the green hell. Oh boy, a skirt. Just the sort of thing you'd want to wear on the taiga. See if we can get them to haul it in. We've got a stockpile downstairs, and then I made this a stockpile to hold overflow with the intent that there would be, overflow. Now, I didn't plan for the doors in this area, so we should do that. All of the bedrooms need a door of their own as well. Gonna have to clear that one up on the right-hand side. There's a spot right there where we didn't do a cabinet. And I gotta clear out that one door, don't I? That's right. Don't need 3 doors on that one side. Now let's get some hotkeys set up. One for the tavern, perhaps. Now this will get a little problematic because these little twos washing around will occasionally cancel a job, but we need to get these walls built so we can cut down on this aquifer leakage into our main entrance. It would never quite flood, I don't think. I don't think we've exposed that much of the aquifer surface area, but it definitely would be unsightly. I don't think it'd ever get past the sort of mud stain it's created down here at the bottom. I think is about as bad as it's ever going to get. But
Oh, no way.
item blocking site, okay. Now the amusing part is a little bit of aquifer leakage isn't necessarily a bad thing. All this mist it's creating as the water rolls downhill through our long ramp actually makes our dwarves happy. The downside is all these boulders could potentially move in the water when it moves around, and if they do, they can hurt dwarves as they move around. That's bad. Case in point when apparently Mom decided to drop Baby down the ramp somehow. Guessing Baby didn't survive the fall, because it's a long way to the bottom of that ramp. So we're probably going to have a dead dwarven baby here momentarily. Hey, how about that? Not in a car on a hot day, not on a slick wet ramp. On the plus side, it is better than the occasional use of a dwarven baby as a human shield, which mothers have been known to do.
Sir, you can't do that there.
Oh, DF Hack hasn't got planning mode working for bookcases yet. Uh-oh. We'll have to wait for those to be done. Sorry, Dwarven Shield. Clinidev is, of course, perfectly correct. Dwarven Shield, not a human shield. My apologies. I would trim my beard in shame, except anyone who's ever seen me knows that my beard isn't full enough to bother trimming in the first place. Now what we're doing here is we're setting up a library that'll be a public library. Visitors can come and go here. I don't care. It's right off the tavern, so anybody who comes in here to make a fuss has got to go right back out through the tavern with all the dwarves and visitors and make a fuss there too. And we're not going to keep anything valuable in the public library. Copies only. And any original work that's produced there will actually hit the tables outside the zone, these 5 tables at the top or the bottom. And since that's outside the library zone, it's no longer eligible for visitors to take it from the fortress. They will effectively be told that their new work of art that they've created in our library is confiscated. We'll put some copies out in a few months. Have fun! And now let's
There's a new baby. Quick, get him a bottle of ale.
clear up our locations a little bit. Gotta make sure it's the right location now. This is one of those things I really hope gets looked at some point, is assigning locations to meeting areas and zones is a real righteous pain in the rehootie. Definitely. Doctrines of Yawning is that one. Oh, I never made the location. That's why I didn't know what it was. Couldn't figure out what it was because we didn't actually do it. We're going to add a new location, and this is going to be a library. And we're going to edit that one a little bit so I don't forget what it is. And let's see, we're going to rename that guy. And cobalt being widely known as a poisonous mineral. And then we gotta do that. Okay, so then we change this one. Actually, I'm okay with that. Believe it or not, that actually works. Pretty much. I mean, you're welcome to come to our library, discuss with our, scholars. I'm going to give plenty of scholars plenty of time to sit in the library of the tavern and yak it up. You're welcome to come to the temple of no particular deity, but nobody gets past the trap line. From here on in, it's visitors outside, dwarves inside. The end.
Another baby? Well, at least it's not an explosion of cats.
Drinks are good. Food is good. We should have plenty of prepared meals is the catch I want to check for. Yes, 500 of them. That's plenty. Bolts. Apparently we accumulated a large number of bismuth bronze somewhere along the way. Let's see. What are we doing for armor now? Let's check on the equipment of our squad here. And it looks like this guy is missing a cloak. Now keep in mind, these check marks do not mean they have steel equipment. They mean that they have equipment that matches that slot. So for us, that's probably going to be iron armor by and large. Sorry, I was thinking about head for archery ranges. I think we'll do two, one on the west and one on the east. We'll do small ones. As soon as someone builds me one of these archer or armory stands here, we'll make this into a barracks and we can get our militia training if we want. Green glass bookcase. Yes, okay, good. Have them queued up. Well, theoretically, at some point, yeah, I'd have to get a militia equipped and know that I have enough of a defense at home that we can defend ourselves while we're sending squads out, right? At some point, what we probably would do is ask for volunteers, big air quotes, not shown, for from each of our militia squads, say 2 volunteers from each squad, to be formed into a raid and sent out. And if we needed a larger squad at that point, then we're looking at maybe we start recruiting more broadly. I just need more people. Didn't trade enough early on to get the big population surge. Okay, they're still bringing a few of these. Hold up a tick. Can't fight. Can't have nice things. Working on it, dude. Working on it. Got caught in the snow. Heaven forbid. Sadness after being separated from a loved one times 3. There's. Ugh. So, where's the self pity for not being able to fight? Yeah, that Guildhall one, that was a bad one. Wish I had missed that. Feel kind of silly. I just didn't realize it popped up. I know what we didn't do. Yep. We didn't build any coffins. Our baby is laying over there on the. I suspect that drive shaft is. Oh, I'm going to have to spend some time playing with the needs view here, because that looks like something we're going to need to get comfortable with in the new version, unfortunately. However, the answer, I suspect, is that it really comes down primarily to Sadness at being separated from a loved one, -6 times 3. So this person is away from most of their family. They had a drink without a mug, and it hasn't happened again. It's just the once in the one season, apparently. Uh, Within the last week, they complained about being in a snowstorm. Finally got to talk to their spouse, which I'm hoping offsets some of that separation from loved one thing. Self-pity after being able to fight. I'll bet if we check his preferences, he likes to get into arguments. Dejection at being unable to be extravagant for too long, which basically means can't have a nice thing, and that's because we don't have much in the way of crafts being built that they can claim, I think. Problem is that helping them be extravagant isn't a matter of just producing it. Apparently, dwarves only claim the stuff when they haul it, which is really annoying because you can have pounds and pounds and pounds of rock jewelry, and your dwarves basically ignore it unless they happen to be the guy that takes it to a stockpile. We'll designate that as an area in case we want to use it, but I don't want it as a hospital, and I don't really want to set a location for it, so I guess a meeting area will work. We probably should set it as a room, though. Okay, so let's go back to our forges and see what we've got queued up. Making the axes, but we don't have the bronze bars for it, as I recall. Okay, and we probably haven't queued up. Let's see if we have. Yeah, it's right there. It's checking. So let's look at the conditions for him. We don't have tin and copper stones. Okay. And as expected, a couple of these jobs got suspended, but you can see already, without even having completed the walls, the flooding has started to drop off. Started to lose some of the uh, waterfall effect we were starting to get here down the main staircase. Well, the question is going to become, can we actually pull a dwarf out? You know, you don't really have all that much wrong with you. You were in the weather one time, you know, you're away from your family, and there's not much I can do about that part. And at one point, we were a little short on mugs because we, you know, didn't prioritize them right out of the gate. That doesn't seem like it's the end of the world, and yet, already you're pretty far down in the dumps. This notion of exiling problematically stressed dwarves is something I'd prefer not to think is intended. I suspect we're improving, but have not yet improved. I've been looking at some of the science posts by Salford Sal, talking about how dwarven thoughts are turning over and how the happy thoughts are churning, but the unhappy thoughts are being brooded on. Doesn't seem like that would be quite so universal. And citizens and long-term residents, because it's right in the middle of our hall and I want people to be able to pass through it. I'm not sending you out to raid alone. Let's see if we can pull you back from the brink of your loved ones daring to be in another fort other than ours. And we'll just make ourselves a cheap well for now since we screwed this well up anyway. That way we'll have a well up and running. Maybe that's what we're doing wrong, all of us. We're trying to make our dining hall a tavern. Maybe we should be having our tavern double as a dining hall. Have a private dwarves only tavern in the middle of our fortress,
It is spring.
decorated to a high shine. Take a look at our cancellations. We don't have bronze stones. We're still slow on grinding out the cloth because, well, it's taking us a while to get the necessary thread. Raw green glass because we're slow to produce all the necessary sand items that we require. Okay. Dreams of creating a masterwork someday, and this dream was realized. For God's sakes, we gave the man his dream, and he's still fucking not happy. Although it does tell me something. See if we can get old Drive Shaft to occasionally pay a visit to the barracks and burn off a little of that excess aggressions. Yeah? That's right. Walk it off with spears. Actually, I don't really care if he spends some time observing some, or spending some time up there giving weapon demonstrations.
Baby's been born.
Oh, that's just great. Another mouth to feed.
I'll take just about anything. But it's just, his stress is going up, 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 up. Holy shit. Super snowstorm panic, and yet there's nothing in his description here that says, oh my god, a snowstorm is the worst thing ever. And yet he's more pissed about the snowstorm than he is about his loved ones. I don't know about you, but if I'm forced to coexist without my spouse for months on end, or my brother, or my loved ones for months on end, that's probably going to be a little more important to me than the fact that I may have gotten into a snowstorm at some point. I mean, this isn't got lost in a snowstorm in the middle of Donner Pass, after all. And I've got his wood hauling off, so where is he going? Oh, right, he's a carpenter, so he has to go outside. See? I can't let him do his job without going outside, and going outside gets him into the snowstorm, which he gets dejected by. Dude, you're a deep doo-doo. We're either going to break you, or you're just going to break. See, but that's the thing. There's nothing in his... Let me double check. It's this characteristic right here. It's this is often sad and dejected, more likely to slip into melancholy and have depression. That's probably what's causing some of these things, because he felt dejection, which is magnified by his tendency here, right? Dejection after being unable to, oh my god, I didn't have a nice ring on my hand, it's the end of the world. That's dejection, for real. But I mean, everything else up here, annoyed that one time last season, sad at being separated, didn't have a nice thing recently, didn't get to fight with someone, snowstorm. That's it. Everything else up here is bliss and satisfaction, euphoric. I must be wildly overestimating or underestimating the amount of caught in a snowstorm we're talking about here. Because I admit, I'd be a little off-put too if I walked outside my front door to check the mail, walked out there to my mailbox, and suddenly 27 feet of snow fell on my head. But assuming this isn't some sort of hyper-cooling event that's dropping an avalanche on my dwarf, the short distance he's dashing in and out of the fort to grab wood doesn't really seem all that caught in a snowstormy to me. Truthfully, I'm not sure how to get him to brawl other than to try and get him into a militia and give him a training order. See if I can get him scheduled for a training order here. You're in the army now, bud. It's probably going to make him worse. Watch. Give you guys the standard spear kit for the moment. Unfortunately, bar fights need another dwarf, which means if I'm making him happy, I'm pissing somebody else off. That's not a good way to go. I suspect what it is that these are the kind of dwarves who get themselves exiled in short order, and that's why dwarven civilizations are so orderly. Because if you show up at the local tavern and you're looking to pick a fight, and you're constantly weeping and whining about how you had to go in the snowstorm that one time to whittle down a log in order to make a bed, well, then your fellow dwarves in no short order are upending drinks on your head, and it's not far from there to, hey, here's a bag, go live in the new Helix over the hill there. Remember, the downside to order is control. Plenty of mugs now. Need to make some more bins. That's what we need to make. Okay, got a bit of charcoal built up too. Good. Hey guys. Let's see if our trader is ready now, finally. Yes, he is. Good. We'll simply check out some of our predetermined salables. Plus something we swiped from the dwarves earlier. Let's see. And these... Oh, not that thing, no. Nope, nope, nope. Don't want to risk that it might have some wood on it. Not going to mess with it right now. What we got in the way of critters? Nothing we care about. It's going to be a poor day to trade for the elves again. Well, I got some bad news for you, guy. You're not getting all of that stuff. We'll give you this. You'll take that. And then we'll offer you this. Because we're really nice, and we'd like you to come back with something better next time, please. And then we'll get rid of this stuff here. Actually, wait a sec. Let's look one other thing real quick. Yeah, let's go ahead and take their meat. damage on the Kia, the Magpie. Actually, wait, is this? That's one of them. Pet critters that we don't care about. Hey, thanks, Blind. We're doing pretty good, actually. Krug Smash deserves a shout out. Him and his bearded bastards showed up yesterday and moved us from about 16% of our way to our goal to about 66% of the way to our initial goal. So we're doing pretty good. Every little bit helps. I guess we could take their fire clay too while we're at it, and we'll give them one more disc. They don't really have anything else I want though, and the animals aren't the sort I can really get much out of butchering wise. Oops. Tell them to take these things back to the stockpiles. So yeah, we're just shy of about 70% of our initial goal now, which is pretty good. I have to admit, though, I wasn't expecting someone to show up and smash it quite like that. Kind of also hoping with him, maybe if we can get him doing militia duties, and he's not so torqued off about everything else, hopefully we can kind of wind him down a little bit. Oh yeah, I'm sure he could tell all about it. He's ejected after dwelling upon being caught in a snowstorm. He was dejected after being unable to be satisfied upon improving carpentry. So he improved his carpentry, wasn't satisfied about it, and is dejected. Am I reading that right? Bitter after getting into an argument. He's the guy that likes to brawl. Killing me, Smalls. Killing me. Yeah, I've heard him say he doesn't have the internet for streaming. It'd be great if he could. He's one of the longest time folks out there that's been doing videos for Dwarf Fortress. Well, we've got him training, so at least he's doing something now. And it is slightly going down, so maybe we're getting there. This guy apparently needs his military duty. Oh, someone was telling me Krug doesn't have quite the internet capacity to sustain a stream. I was going to raid his channel afterward, but I just realized he doesn't have one. Okay, we're not keeping up with our sand production, and that's because we're making so many glass items all at once. Just queue up a few extras to help him along here. And I think what we're going to have to do is an old standby where we create a couple of workshops. Oh, well, there you go. We get this workshop built, we'll just set it to do nothing but collect sand, and at that point we'll have a surplus of sand collection jobs going on, we hope. The other thing we might be able to do, now that I'm thinking about it, empty boxes and bags made only of silk and plant cloth, stored directly adjacent to where we're doing the sand collection. So any empty bags are being ferried back to where they'll be used. Hey, don't get me wrong, if he likes producing them like that, more power to him. I think the amount of time it would take me to master the tools would take me longer to get comfortable with than it would Dwarf Fortress. Now let's make sure our mayor has all his assigned rooms. Almost. His bedroom is a little unpretty yet. Okay. We're still waiting on a couple of pieces of furniture for that, so that works fine by me. Let's go check on our flooding again. We've just about locked that all down. Yeah, I wish I had the talent to draw. Alas, not my thing. Never had the time or the inclination or both to practice it to that extreme. Stick figures and a couple little sketches here and there. That's about it. Wait, no. Wrong workshop. And those guys will go nuts for a while collecting sand, which should more than handle our ability to produce green glass items as long as we keep up with it. Sandbags are starting to accumulate here in our storage area, which is good. Okay. Yeah, I'm not much of a talker either. I do it once a year for extra life, and that's about the only time I do any sort of public display like this. Still can't believe that's all the drinks we've got. Did we make a second drink stockpile and I forgot about it? Or is it back in our main food stockpile and never got removed? That's better, I'm thinking. There we go. Now let's see if we don't get some proper movement of all that stuff out of here and into something better. That looks more like a drink stockpile. Okay.
The migrants have arrived. Hey,
More
they've
hands.
got those
Good.
shoes. Get those shoes, boys.
Super duper bone carver. Still no wax worker. Keep in mind, Clinidev, if you're paying attention here, there has not been a single wax worker in the history of our fortress here. I think we've had most other things except like the siege professions, pottery, glazing. It's hard to tell with ceramics because we've assigned people to it at some point. But it looks like everything that's been added doesn't tend to show up, generally speaking, in my fortresses. And I suppose if I started cranking out the books, I might start seeing more bookbinders. We get lots and lots of everything else. We've even had a couple miners show up, I believe. But no wax workers. It's a conspiracy, I tell you. Okay, with this many haulers, I'm hoping we'll do a little better job of keeping up with our wood intake. While our carpenter is otherwise occupied in his new gig as sometime spear guy.
Oh, there goes another dwarf gonna build some useless convention and then it's worthless.
Okay, I'm starting to get tired of you here, Drive Shaft. I'm just telling you. Here's why. Okay, check this out. So a moment ago, you were coming up. Now all of a sudden, it's self-pity after being unable to practice a martial art for too long. We gave you a new thing to do, and now you're upset that you haven't been able to do it. Dejection after a lack of decent meals. I have 500 prepared meals in my fortress. Now, to be fair, you're either a really good teacher or Valdemar started with a lot of skill that I don't remember him having. Because out of the gate, you've managed to get him up to a 2 in spear skill. I don't think he started with it.
You there, I'm building an artifact. Give me the workshop.
But I was just about to.
Give me the workshop.
But.
Give it to me.
But.
Give it to me.
Yeah, see, at that point, if it's down to I'm going to get mad because I don't have my favorite meal served to me on a silver platter, this guy is destined for the hillocks. That's all there is to it. I'm willing to make allowances, but there are limits. It's Dwarf Fortress, not Dwarf Hotel. Helix, you mean the staircase designs? Let's see if they got those last few rooms finally populated properly. Yes, it looks like they may have. Good. Almost done. Now let's see here. After that, we can go back and lay in our... I really need to check to see if the quick fort designation for this floor plan will work or not. But we had to put in our containers and cabinets, same as always. There are a number of them. I think that gets all of those. Check here and make sure I didn't miss any if I can spot them. I think we're good. And then as before, we'll flip planning mode on and we'll do our cabinets. See if I've got everything laid in for those. I think that's all of those. And lastly, the doors. The good news is all of our dwarves have migrated most of the loose stone out of the bedroom areas now. So these areas that we were excavating earlier are already almost entirely clear. Missing a door over there. I'm missing a couple there. I think that's everything on that floor. Now we just gotta wait for him to fill it in. And we're up to 101 dwarves, so at this point we need that third floor. I think we're gonna have to look at getting a park set up.
Ugh, no more fishing.
check in on our wayward dwarf. Still need to get some bookcases built. Right. And now the sandbags are keeping up. Now it's going to be just down to a matter of how well we can keep up with the charcoal usage. And a properly finished fort, one where we'd finally made that dive down to the basement 100 levels down, and we have our magma available to us, we could use glass smelting pretty well indefinitely. We could make anything we wanted out of glass forever, simply by shipping the bags back and forth.
Another baby? Well, at least it's not an explosion of cats.
There's a thought. If collapsing a stone layer in allows you to keep that stone layer material, then it should be possible to collapse the soil layer, like sand, all the way to the bottom, and put a sand zone directly adjacent to the magma sea. There's your food for thought. Instead of bringing the magma up, we can just take the sand down. And these dwarves here are congregating in the guild hall, so they're discussing farming techniques. And we see some of our dwarves getting dabbling farming. I think I have. I need to double check, but I think I have only Farmer's Harvest on. No, but I do now. Need to make that the case that the farmers are properly working on their skills. Drinks, let's check on our materials. Time to start using some of that iron. Probably not flux, I'm guessing. We out of flux? We are out of flux stones. Okay. Let some flux right out of the wall then. We shall. We shall. Which will put pig iron in. Oh, we've got a guy who's not making his construction. There he goes. Our dwarven child is getting busy with his construction here now, finally.
Sir, here's the list. Looks like we're out of these things here, you see?
Oh, yes. We need to build some of these.
Need to get a backup carpenter because our lead carpenter is temporarily a spearman. And now we'll excavate. Is this coal? Hoping. Galena. Ah, well. Silver at least. Silver's not bad. I could do with about 200 or 300 units of sphalerite to make zinc bins with, though. No, I'm not too sweating about the extra silver. We'll get enough from the Galena that we shouldn't need to worry about it. So that should be okay.
As summer blazes on your face, dig deep your caves for cooler space.
Probably don't need 2 metalsmithing forges if we are not producing enough metal bars to be used. Problem still is that we are not producing enough pig iron. Why do we not? Okay, so we're doing good there. Let's take a look at iron high boots are coming along. Greaves. And we'll crank out a bunch of steel coins. And at some point, I'll macro a splitter for that so that we can melt those back down. But in the meantime, we could use them for buying things.
Ach, don't tell the elves that all the fish are gone.
It's going to be fun trying to irrigate that. We're probably going to have to use the taiga. I don't think that we'll get enough water to fill a space that large with just the aquifer without a lot of pain in the rear end tunnel digging. Lots and lots of vertical shafts to get like a rainwater collector basically going is what we'd have to end up doing. No, I don't think we ever built any querns. Oh, I love my cat. I think I'm going to have to kill her. She shut the door on my computer room again, and I don't notice it till I'm starting to realize I'm boiling. A marsh titan, which we are in no way ready to fight. So let's pull everybody indoors. Actually, no. Let's not pull everybody indoors. Let's make a note that we're going to pull everybody indoors, and since it's 10 o'clock, we'll call it here and end on a cliffhanger. So who's paid attention out there? Who's streaming Dwarf Fortress tonight? Looks like Cupo is out there. Let's grab him. Right, and we'll close it up here.